Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to hear about my birth story with my daughter and the days afterwards in early postpartum, and kind of hearing my journey going into motherhood and all the things that we experienced through that time. So that was almost a year ago. 2 days, in 2 days it will be her first birthday, May 10th. So I'm going to kind of go through and share my birth story with you guys, a way to connect if you had a similar birth story. Maybe you're giving birth soon, or you gave birth 30 years ago, or you've never given birth and you're just curious on what happened for me. Anyways, no matter what the reason is, thank you for tuning in and watching. So May 10th, I woke up around 7:30 in the morning. I had some kind of light, like almost period cramps. I knew something was coming. I knew labor was definitely close. It was one day after my due date that the midwives gave me. So started feeling them. I started timing it on my app that I had for contractions. They were every kind of like minute and a half, 2 minutes. I was getting these light little cramps. They kind of start soft. I mean, we probably have, if you're a woman watching this, you've had more pain during your period than I was experiencing in the early morning. I let Andre know. I was like, hey, I'm experiencing some cramping. Not sure if this is labor or it's just kind of the preparation for it. Not really sure what to expect, but here we are. So we called my midwife, let them know, just kind of hung out on the couch for the morning. Andre took care of the girls, got them to school. And then we just kind of hung out, took it slow, had a smoothie, like tried to drink a coffee, didn't want it. They were still pretty like gentle, kind of getting a little bit more intense as the morning went on. And then by like 11, 12 o'clock, we were trying to watch a movie, the Entourage movie, which we are gonna watch this Friday for her birthday because we never actually got to watch it. It started getting really, really intense. The cramping, or the contractions, I should say, just felt like really strong cramps. I was timing them. They were still about that kind of minute and a half apart, but starting to get really, really intense here. So I tried to drink a smoothie through the pain. I just like almost like animalistic breathing. I was out of breath kind of getting through some of the contractions because of the pain. And I ended up actually throwing up from the pain being so intense. Not knowing, again, this was my first birth, so I didn't really know what to expect. I didn't know how intense the pain was, what that meant. We were calling the midwives kind of in between, kind of going, hey, like, here's some more contractions we're having. And they would listen in. They just told me, okay, just lay down, have a shower, just kind of relax, take it easy. We're going to be here for quite a while. It's your first baby, so odds are you'll be having it. You'll be probably in labor for like 12, 24 hours, depending on obviously my body and our baby at the time. So it was about lunchtime, I say, like 12 or 1 o'clock. Mind you, my times are a little bit all over the place because obviously I was in labor. Andre made grilled cheese. I was sitting on the birthing ball just trying to get some relief in between the contractions. Yes, ended up throwing up from the pain. Just like completely uncomfortable. My daughter sat really low during pregnancy in my pelvis, so I already had a lot of pressure there just from pregnancy, so I didn't really think anything of it. I never had like kind of aggressive water breaking like in the movies where it just like goes all over the floor and you're like, oh my gosh, my water broke, we're having a baby, go to the hospital. I thought I experienced it. It was around like 1:30. It started getting really intense. The pain was just like, it was so aggressive. When the contractions came, I got relief in between them, which was great. But when they came on, I was breathing really heavy, groaning, moaning, all the things, trying to kind of release that pain. We ended up calling the midwife back and just saying like, hey, we need someone to come here, check me. I'm not sure if my water broke. Just like the pain is so intense. I'm throwing up. Like someone just come and just like let us know everything's okay. Kind of give us just somebody here peace of mind. So they agreed. They ended up sending another midwife that was on call, who I actually happened to work out with at a gym previous time of my life. So she came in, we recognized each other. It's my first baby giving birth, so I knew she knew that she didn't meet me through midwifery. Anyways, long story short, I laid on the couch. She checked me and she goes, wow, like, congratulations, you're 6 to 7 centimeters dilated. I was like, oh my God. She's like, are you guys having the baby here? It's like, no, like we plan to go to the hospital. And she's like, well, you guys need to leave now because you're going to have a baby within the next couple hours. That morning, Andre was putting the car seat together, putting it into the car. I had most of my hospital bag packed. We didn't have any water or snacks. Like it was just kind of chilling through because we figured we had all day. It was going to be a while. It's my first baby, all the things that they tell you. So she texts me. She's like, one thing I can let you know is the pain that you're experiencing now is the most intense the pain will be. It will not get worse from here. This is just it. For me, that was a huge sigh of relief because the pain was brutal, but I honestly thought this was early labor pain. I was like, this is so intense. I don't think I'm going to make it without getting an epidural, which I didn't want to, and not to be like a hero and be like, oh my gosh, I'm stronger than everybody because I gave birth naturally. Needles and not feeling my legs freaks me out more. So one thing that was really important to me from the day I found out I was pregnant and kind of even before that was knowing I wanted to give birth naturally. So I couldn't get an epidural even if I wanted it because I was so far along without knowing it. But it was, really relieving that, okay, the pain that I'm experiencing, it's not going to get worse. I can do this. I've already been doing it. Let's just get to the hospital, pack the rest of our bag, and get there. So we hop in the car. Andre loads the rest of the stuff. We drive to the hospital, which is about a 10 to 12 minute drive from where we live. By the time we got to the hospital, Andre was like, I'll just drop you off and then I will park and we'll go from there. I am stubborn to my core and I was like, no, you're not leaving me. Like I was in the middle of contractions. So I had a bit of a break and I was like, I feel fine. Let's just park the car. We can walk together and we'll go up together. Yeah. So we parked the car. Andre knew he wasn't going to win. He's like, I just need to get you into the hospital. So whatever that means, like, sure. So we go to the parking garage, park, get out. I have a contraction. I'm like holding onto him, squeezing his arm, like animalistic noises. Like I didn't care. I was in so much pain. Then it would stop. We'd walk more, get to the hospital. We were like in the middle of like the courtyard in the hospital. I was having a contraction. A nurse came up to Andre and was like, hey, like there's some wheelchairs. You should probably get her in the entrance of the hospital. He's like, well, thank you. I understand that. I'm just trying to get her there. I can't just leave her in the middle of the courtyard by herself. Anyway, it was just a funny moment. Get into the hospital, get into a chair immediately, and then right up to the labor and delivery board. I don't remember much. I just remember like moaning and groaning in the elevator and getting to the labor and delivery ward and like literally going from the front desk and like right into the private birthing room. And then I think Andre obviously would have checked me in because I have no recollection of anything. It was just like straight up, right in there, right into the bed. Get in there, get all set up, and then the midwife checks me again and she's like, okay, you're 8 to 9 centimeters. That was really fast. It's only been about, at this point, probably about half an hour. So I'm just kind of going through contractions, getting kind of set up. They're getting all their systems and everything in place and in order, getting everything ready to deliver a baby. And I think it was honestly within maybe like another 20 minutes. I was like, okay, these contractions, they'll tell you like you'll have this urge to push. And I had exactly that. Like the contractions were coming on and it was like this pressure of like, I just want to push. Kind of like picturing for TMI, like you really have to poop and it's like right there and you're like, I have to poop, like it's going to come out. That's how it felt with the baby. I was like, hey, like these contractions are really making me want to push. And she's like, you shouldn't be 10 centimeters yet. That's really fast, but I don't trust your body. So let me just check and see where you're at. And she checked me and she's like, yeah, you're 10 centimeters. This is moving really fast. You're good. You're cleared to push like whenever you feel ready through the contractions. Let's do it. And then I believe it was about an hour and a half of pushing. After about an hour of pushing, they were kind of concerned with her heart rate. She was kind of stuck. I think her shoulders were stuck in my pelvis area and they were getting kind of concerned. I remember the midwife saying, like, if you can't push harder and get her out of this spot, we're going to have to do an episiotomy, which is where they cut to open up even more and be able to like reach in and grab her out. Really didn't want that. So I remember hearing that and going like, hell no. I worked so dang hard through my pregnancy to keep my strength up. I went to pelvic floor therapy to really work on how to push and effective ways to give birth. And I was like, I will try my hardest before they have to cut me or use any intervention. Nothing against interventions. I know they're there to help keep you and the baby alive. I've just, if I could avoid them, really didn't want to be cut for recovery and everything else. So I remember hearing that and I was like, okay, I'm bearing down. I'm doing this. I'm strong enough. I can do it. So I did that. So through the contractions, I pushed and pushed and pushed. The midwife ended up bringing over a mirror, even though I said I didn't want it. She's like, I think it'll really help you. And thank God that she just pushed through my stubbornness of like, no, I don't want to see down there. Like, I don't need the mirror. The visualization really, really helped. So if you are going to be giving birth and you're struggling to kind of get those pushes through and like visualizing your baby come out, even if it may sound kind of gross, maybe just try it. Or if there's an option to have it in the room, I highly recommend it. It really helped me visualize and see her head kind of poking out and in, and really helped with those pushes to really visualize her coming out. So I continued to push through the contractions. I didn't think it was that bad. I obviously was like in the middle of like the worst pain of my life, but not realizing it. And I think my body, to protect me, kind of blacked it out. On just like at some of the contractions, you would hold my hands so hard and like your eyes looked like they were going to bulge out of your face. Cool. Yes. So I think it was around like 5:15 at this point. We were getting really close to getting her out, and the midwife had called. She was like, you're going to have a baby by 5:25. And I remember saying like, it'll be 5:20. Like, I'm like, just like this competitive nature. I don't know why, but it ended up being 5:25. I remember seeing her head kind of crowning, and that ring of fire they tell you is so real. I know everyone in my like pelvic floor team had said, when you feel that ring of fire, like hold on as much as you can. It's going to help stretch that skin so you don't tear. It was so intense. I couldn't hold on. I was like, I just get out of me. So I ended up tearing a few places in my perineum and then my labia as well. I didn't care. I was like, just get this baby out of me. Like, it's okay. Like, it's okay. I'm okay with whatever happens. She was born. Immediately on my chest. It was so surreal. Like, it's so hard to recall the emotions because it was just so overwhelming through that experience. But like feeling her on my chest and being like, oh my God, there's like a real baby on my chest. This is my baby. I remember her getting on my chest and I was like, wait, like what gender is she? Because we didn't find out, and obviously she's a girl. And then within 30 minutes she had latched to me and was started breastfeeding. And then, yeah, they were stitching me up, all the fun things post giving birth, got my placenta out, stitching me up, and then doing all their checks with Amari, checking her weight, doing all the things that they need to do. And then it was about, I want to say like 8 o'clock, they were discharging me. I was able to walk not right after, but within the hour after giving birth because I didn't have that epidural. So once they got through all of the things they needed to discharge me, we were heading downstairs to leave the hospital. And this is kind of where I'm going to leave a bit of like a trigger warning. If you haven't given birth yet and you're easily triggered by, it's a happy ending, but hearing things that happen after birth, that isn't necessarily positive, maybe pause it. You can come back later, or if you just like don't want to know altogether, this is your time to just stop watching the video and head back to your day. If you're not bothered by it, continue on. I just wanted to give that little bit of a pause in the video. So Andre is getting the car. I'm with the midwives. I had a midwife in training with us, so we actually had an extra person on our team. So she was carrying Amari down. Andre was going to get the vehicle. I was in a wheelchair. And it was actually the midwife in training that was watching Amari's breathing and noticed she was breathing really intensely and a lot of breaths per minute. They weren't comfortable with sending us home. So we got all the way down there. Andre had the car. Andre came back in and they were like, we got to go back upstairs. She's not breathing. She's breathing way too much. We're concerned about what's going on. I have a hair in my mouth. That's awesome. So we head back upstairs, and I think they discharged me but hadn't discharged her yet, or whatever the story is. It doesn't matter. We get back upstairs, get back into the birthing room. They hadn't even cleaned it up yet, or it was just all still there. We're waiting for the NICU nurse to come in and check her to see if she needs to get admitted or if we can go home. She's not happy with the breathing either, so we head over to the NICU. So they wheel me over there. Amari's already being transported with the doctor. They did x-rays on her. They saw fluid in her lungs, and they wanted to keep her on continuous monitoring. I had to immediately stop breastfeeding her because they were concerned about the fluid. They didn't want her to choke. So she got set up on, I believe, an IV, a heart monitor on her foot, and then she had, and then she had patches on her as well. I'll put a little picture here so you guys can see what she looked like in the NICU if you're curious. Oh my God, it sucked. I remember sitting and seeing her in this little like NICU incubator, and everything just seemed so surreal. Like a half an hour ago, I was holding her, she was getting into the carrier, we were heading home, life was great, and then all of a sudden we're in the NICU and I don't know what's happening. I can't hold my baby, I can't feed my baby, she's just in this plastic container and I don't know what's going on. I remember just like bawling my eyes out, and the midwives were there consoling me, and then the nurses at the NICU at the hospital were amazing. I got warm blankets. I was still cramping post-birth, and so warm blankets on my stomach, and just sitting there with her. And then the one nurse actually ended up allowing me to hold her, so she got her out with all the wires and everything, and I could hold her and just spend a minute with her before they wanted her to just stay in the incubator. And then we went into like a different kind of hospital visitor room, and I slept on like a hospital bed. Andre slept on a chair. And then we woke up early in the morning, headed back over to the NICU. We were still waiting for her levels and that fluid to get out of her lungs. Long story short, we were there for 2 nights. So she was born on Wednesday. We went home Friday late afternoon, almost evening. Until her oxygen level got to close to 100%, we were stuck in the NICU until that fluid kind of released naturally. So we stayed there. I remember just feeling like I just wanted to be home. Like I was sleeping in a random bed. We were getting woken up by the nurses to feed her. Like everything was just, we were living out of bags. Andre was sleeping on a chair for multiple days. It was just a mess. Finally, we got to go home. She ended up having a bit of jaundice, so they wanted to keep monitoring her, so we had to go back on the Saturday morning to get blood work again. Watching your baby get pricked by a needle over and over again on multiple days, every day that we were in the hospital, is the most saddest thing ever. Her feet were so bruised, her hand from the little IV was bruised and sore, and I just wanted to go home and have no more tests and just bond with my baby. So we went back on the Saturday morning to the pediatric ward. She got tested for her jaundice levels. They were leveling out. They weren't completely depleted, but we didn't have to go back in for treatment, for UV treatment in the hospital. So we were sent home. On the Friday, the midwife had come to our house once we got discharged. She takes blood pressure for me, checks my uterus, making sure everything's kind of coming down, everything is healing as it's supposed to. She does weight checks for the baby, all that fun stuff, which is an incredible level of service that midwives offer, which is part of why I went with them. So she checked everything. She asked me if I had a headache or any kind of symptoms. I was like, nope, everything's good. She's like, okay, just take it easy this weekend. Your blood pressure is a little bit high. Just want to keep monitoring it as we kind of go through the weekend when I see you on Sunday. Just take it easy. If you have any symptoms of headaches or pressure or anything like that, just give us a call or head to the hospital. And I was like, okay, like no problem, thanks, like see you later. So Saturday I go to the hospital, do all that stuff, get home, start to kind of get organized in the house. Everything is just like chaos. The girls ended up coming over that afternoon. They were with their mom from Wednesday on. Obviously we were in the hospital. So they came pretty much like a couple hours after we got home from Amari getting her last check. So it was just like chaos. Everyone was meeting each other. We were still trying to unpack, get sorted. And then Sunday was Mother's Day. Yay. My first Mother's Day, still everything is like just chaos around here. We had come home from a few days of just the house being left and from like birth state, so everything is just chaos. There's stuff everywhere. Mother's Day, I think it was lunchtime. Andre was just getting like meal prepping done because we also didn't have that done we thought we had more time. So he was prepping meals, getting everything into the fridge and freezer, so we had stuff for the following weeks. Midwife came over for around lunchtime, doing all of her checks. She checks my blood pressure again, and she notices that it's higher, and she kind of looked concerned. She's like, "Are you feeling it? Do you have any symptoms or anything going on? Any headaches? Any pressure?" And I was like, "No, like I feel fine. I'm just eating my lunch, like hanging out. Things are good." She's like, "Well, your pressure is really, really high. You are day 4 postpartum, and typically if your blood pressure is going to peak, it's going to be day 5. And I don't want you to be home if it is going to get higher than this. It's a really dangerous level, and I really recommend you guys going to Emerge and getting treated." We were like, Andre, I remember Andre saying like, "Hey, just take the pressure again. Like maybe she's just nervous, or just a lot going on. Like just take it again." And I saw her face, and she was like, "Okay, like, yep, I will." But I could just tell something was off. So she took it again, and she's like, "No, it's really high." I don't recall what the level was. I want to assume maybe like 180 over 90, somewhere like pretty high, but not like, it was high. So we ended up, I think, calling his mom. She came over, or his brother, and to watch the girls. And then we packed up a bag, packed up like the bassinet and everything for Amari to sleep in, and then headed to the hospital again to go through Emerge and see what was going on. Honestly, I thought we were going to get to Emerge, like go through the whole rigmarole, get some medication for blood pressure, and then go home. We went through triage. We were waiting in like the isolated spot before the waiting room, and I was going through all the spots. They were checking my blood pressure, getting all their information. And then someone came in, and they were like violently throwing up. And I remember just like fight or flight inside me. I was like, "Andre, get Amari out of here. You guys need to like get out of the emergency room. Like I'm freaking out. Like we just spent 2 days in the NICU, 2 nights. I do not want her to get sick. Like get out of here." So he left. He went up to the main entrance, went outside, just got out of the whole situation. I finished triage, and I literally went into the waiting room. My butt hit the seat, and then they called my name and went into getting admitted into the emergency room. That is unheard of unless you are like bleeding out, going to die, having a heart attack. Like at this hospital, it's like minimum 8 to 12 hours before you actually get through all of the systems, all the testing, all of the things. Like it just is what it is. It's just a long ass wait. So I knew something was up. I was like, normally we're waiting here for quite a while. Like you go through the whole system, whatever, they take your blood. So immediately getting into the waiting room, I'm calling Andre. I'm like, "I'm getting into a room. Like you can't get through these doors without someone authorizing you. Get downstairs now." So I get through into the Emerge, get on the gown. They get the EKG system on me, blood pressure cuff, like all the things. I'll put a picture here so you can see the whole setup and everything that they had. Amari is 4 days old. I remember hearing the noises in the NICU of the monitors when things aren't like at the 100% level that they want. It gives this like beeping error. It started immediately doing that, which gave me like PTSD to sitting in the NICU, hearing that go off all the time with the constant monitoring. Andre met me in the room with Amari. They had to leave the door or the gown curtain open because they had to watch the screen for my blood pressure. I couldn't see it. It was behind me. I just knew obviously it wasn't normal because it kept beeping. So it was going off every 15 minutes. And I was sitting there with the EKG on, all that fun stuff. Multiple nurses were coming and checking. The doctor came in and was asking me a bunch of questions. They ended up testing me for preeclampsia. There was no protein in my urine, so they weren't really sure at this point why my blood pressure was so high and what was causing it. Anyways, long story short, sitting in this room, like I was just hanging out, but watching like the nurses would like kind of peek over, look at it, and make a face, and I could obviously see their faces, and I was getting kind of concerned. And then just watching like just the chaos of people are sick, there's things happening, people are yelling, people are upset, and just like the rigmarole of being in the emergency ward of the hospital. I'm trying to breastfeed Amari. She's 4 days old, like she's tiny. We're in this, it was just, I just wanted out. I wanted to go home. Just give me medicine. Let's go. So they kept kind of monitoring. It kept getting higher. And then they tried to give me blood pressure medication just through like a needle in my arm into my bloodstream. Nothing happened. It didn't do anything, didn't budge. And And then I think it peaked, Andre mentioned, way after, because obviously telling someone how high their blood pressure is just makes their blood pressure go higher. The highest it went was 206 over 103, somewhere in there, 205 or over 1/3, something. I believe it's stroke or seizure. I think it's seizure or both. I'm not sure. Territory. So they ended up hooking me up to a magnesium transfusion. I'm not sure. I'm not a nurse. They just hooked me up to an IV. They ran a whole bag of magnesium through my system because after giving birth, you're really deficient in magnesium, and that helps. I'm not even sure. I'm going to butcher trying to figure out what it helps, but it helped. I ended up getting really, really sleepy through, which she said would happen. And I still had a lot of like excess swelling from pregnancy that I was holding on to. And after this magnesium, I'm going to say infusion, was about an hour. And then they had already hooked me up to a catheter. Yay. And after that transfusion, about an hour, they noticed that like 2 liters of fluid got expelled from my body. Like I woke up from this infusion and my ankles went from like swollen, puffy, couldn't even recognize my feet and ankles, to like back to where they are today. I remember feeling so relieved and like way more myself, and it did wonders. It didn't fix the problem. It just was one step towards getting my levels and everything else back from pregnancy and post-birth. So blood pressure is still high. They did the magnesium to try and obviously stop me from seizing. And then they ended up hooking me up to, now that they had the IV in, they hooked me up to a second line and started giving me blood pressure medication to lower the blood pressure, obviously because it was so high. At this point, I didn't know, but once they have that medication hooked up to the IV, you're pretty much guaranteed to be admitted to the hospital because they can't send you home with an IV in your arm for the medication. So we ended up getting admitted to the ICU. I didn't think I would choke up. I'm not going to cry. We ended up getting admitted. So later on that night, they ended up carting us up to the floor. They did mention, they were like, hey, I know the ICU sounds scary. You need this monitoring because of your blood pressure and the situation that you're in. This is just the best ward for you to be in. So we went up there. There was a lot of really injured and sick people in this ward. Obviously, it's the intensive care unit. We got wheeled into this like 10 by 10 room. Thankfully, it had like a glass kind of wall and door, so we were able to shut it and get some privacy in there. They were great. They got me all set up, got some warm blankets on me, kind of set up our room. Andre ended up leaving to go and grab more supplies because we, again, didn't think that we were going to be staying the night. So he was getting more diapers, all the things that we needed, snacks and things like that for the night. So they ended up switching over from the emergency connectors. They put on their EKG connectors, so all over my chest, all in my ribs. I had a blood pressure cuff on that was being monitored still every between 15, 30 minutes and an hour was going off. And an IV line for that medication that was continually running in to keep my blood pressure lower. It was still high, but at least it wasn't in that kind of seizure territory. And we were admitted from Sunday and we got discharged on the Wednesday late afternoon. It was a long few days of laying in a bed. I couldn't leave, multiple tests, blood work constantly. I had to go get an echocardiogram, which is like a ultrasound of your heart to kind of see how it's pumping, how it's working, to kind of figure out, okay, why did your blood pressure get so high? Because again, they still had no reason. They had no idea why it was happening and how they could help outside of the medication. So we had the head of cardiology for the hospital. That was my doctor for the time that we were there. And then I believe it was Monday, he kind of came in, checked in on me. He was like, we're going to try and give you some oral medication to kind of play between the IV and the oral, because eventually the end goal is to get me onto oral medication so that I can go home. So that took about until Wednesday morning was when they started to almost have the IV completely off. Like they stopped with the drip, they took the IV out. That was like IV number 4 or 5. It kept breaking under my skin because I was breastfeeding. So they had one on my elbow, one on my wrist, one on the top of my arm. It was just constantly breaking because you're bending your elbows, you're lifting a baby. I wasn't just sitting still in a bed. The most painful thing outside of childbirth is an IV breaking into under your skin and the medication going underneath. My hands and my elbow was so bruised for the vein in my one arm actually was, or my top of my hand was bruised up until like maybe last month. It went away finally. Anyways, so yes, it's Wednesday. We were like, it was just like an awful experience listening to code blues on our floor, listening to like all the things in a hospital that you just don't want to listen to. You have a 4-day-old, 5-6-day-old, like it's just chaos in the first week. Life just seemed like, I can't even put to words. It was very traumatic. And we didn't know what was going on. I didn't know when we were going to get out of the hospital, what was happening. It was a really, really dark day on Tuesday. We thought we were going to be able to go home. We didn't even get to see the doctor. There was 4 code blues in the hospital that he was responding to, obviously life-threatening, and I'm so grateful that he was able to be there to help those people. So we didn't see the doctor on that Tuesday. It just kept going on with the day. Just kind of felt like we were forgotten about in the hospital. I was like, whatever, we'll deal with them another day. And then Wednesday, we had a really great night nurse that night that tried something different with weaning me off of the IV medication. It worked really, really well. She went slower rather than faster with the lowering the doses. So by the morning, I was able to be off the IV and continuing with the oral medication. So we got discharged. My mom actually came home from Panama that day, and she was home for the week. So she came to visit me in the hospital just before we were basically getting discharged after a few weeks. And then a friend of ours brought homemade lasagna and salad and real plates with forks. So we had a really great lunch before leaving and getting to go home. Getting discharged. I can also post a picture of the room. We took one like kind of sayonara picture. There isn't really much else pictures in that room because it was just monitors and a bed and really depressing. Amari's first bath was in like a little tub on my hospital table thing, that wheelie cart thing. I got like sponge bathed. I couldn't leave the bathroom. I couldn't leave to go to the bathroom. So Andre, me, and Amari all got to be in the same room together. Thankfully, Andre could leave if he wanted to, obviously. So then we get discharged on the Wednesday with a follow-up for a few days from then to kind of monitor my blood pressure, make sure that it didn't spike. And then we had a blood pressure like portable machine at home, so I was constantly monitoring it. I couldn't even tell you how many times a day I was monitoring to make sure that it was staying low enough. I was on some pretty heavy medication for, I believe it was just over 2.5 months, and then slowly weaning myself off from there. And then it was weekly or bi-weekly checks at the hospital, getting my blood pressure done, kind of checking to see how things were going. Because I had that echocardiogram, they actually got the results, and they found out that I also had a leaky valve in my heart, which is common, I guess, in pregnancy. You just don't always know about it because it's not common practice to get an echocardiogram in postpartum unless there's something wrong. They said it would heal on its own. Obviously that freaked me out. I'm just like, they say not to freak out, but then it freaks you out anyways. It did end up healing over time, so they ended up doing a follow-up in the fall for my heart, and everything was healed, which was really great to know. And they basically told me that something was kind of left from my placenta in my uterus that caused my veins to constrict and be stressed out. I held onto fluid, which made things worse, and then just kind of stressed out my body, which caused the high blood pressure. And then I got diagnosed with postpartum hypertension, which is really, really high blood pressure postpartum. And then the doctor predicted by the time that everything was kind of healed in my uterus, which was about end of July, that my blood pressure would naturally just come back to its original state. Oh my God. I remember just thinking, like, how do things deteriorate so fast? Like, I had a healthy pregnancy. Everything seemed normal. There was no complications, no high blood pressure, no gestational diabetes. Like, everything was just textbook, however it went. And then after she was born, it felt like everything was like ripped away from me from what I thought would happen. And I still kind of have some trauma around hospitals and blood pressure. And if you can get one thing from this video, if you know someone that just had a baby, or you're having a baby soon, or you just had a baby, please just go to your local pharmacy if you don't have a blood pressure machine at home, and just get your blood pressure checked if you don't have a midwife that is checking for you regularly postpartum. I had 0 symptoms. I had no idea that my blood pressure was so high, and I wouldn't have if I didn't have that midwife checking my blood pressure and then advising us to go to the hospital. If it was left undiagnosed, depending on how long, the severity of it, I could have seized at home, I could have had a stroke, and then long term, some of my organs would have shut down, and it could have been life-threatening. So please, 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 if you know somebody, or if you yourself are affected by it, just go and get your blood pressure checked. If it's high, call your doctor or go to emergency room. It's not a joke, and it's a very serious condition that affects about 10% of women. Not enough people talk about it because it's not a very common thing to happen postpartum. I'm sharing from the place of, hey, everything was normal and healthy and I had no symptoms. I'm a generally healthy person and it happened to me. So that's my story. Obviously there's lots that happened postpartum. That was kind of the major thing that happened immediately after. If you made it this far in the video, thank you for watching. Again, if you got anything from this, please just share with your freshly postpartum or mamas-to-be to make sure that they are monitoring their blood pressure postpartum. And I hope you have an awesome day. Thanks for watching.